Thanks for coming along and doing this interview with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You said you were an angry black lad, Ash, and you went to Jamaica, to where your dad was from, and not long after you're thrown into a dungeon, unjustly. Well, yeah, I was going to ask you, you seemed so positive after that. You were angry at the racism you'd come across. And yet when you got out, you were positive. You wanted to make a positive difference,
Yeah.
I was wondering, how did you react to that? And does that come through with the work you do now with people in prison? Can you pass that along,
Yes, and yes to everything that you said. So the company that I run is called Rise Up, and I started that company for the very reason that I was diagnosed with ADHD. Well, it was called hyperkinesis back in those days. I think they changed the name to ADHD in about 1984. So I didn't get on very well in school. And I also, obviously, there was the whole race thing throughout the 80s. It was pretty direct, the racism. People often think the Jamaica situation is maybe what turned me around, but it wasn't. I spent the 4 years after Jamaica. I had my 17th birthday, it banged up in Jamaica. And I spent the next 4 years after that becoming even more of a scally and a criminal. And at the time that I first met Helen and her friends when I was 21, I was 2.5 stone heavier than I am now, of pure muscle. I had a skinhead, big, muscly, weightlifting guy, thought I was dead hard. And that was all a reaction to what, kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, if you like. So what I do now is, and again, it's up to you guys if you want to ask me how this comes about, but I kind of work with people, teaching them how to overcome those barriers that society or family or the system or the schools may put in your way. How to understand what it is that you really want out of life, and why some people choose to try to attain those things in negative ways that are short-term and don't last. And indeed, how to feel the way that you decide to feel at any given moment, no matter what other people are doing, even in difficult situations.
That's great philosophy. I wish we could all follow it. Brilliant. Thanks a lot.
Pleasure.
Now, just from what you're saying there, obviously with what you've gone through in the past and stuff, now your inspiration to write, did it come from those events, or was that kind of inspiration already there beforehand?
Yeah, well, I'd say both, and I've got to be honest when people ask me this question, because I'm just an honest guy, and so I don't know if this sounds a bit mystical or weird, but I always wanted to be a writer, and I always wrote stories and poetry from being, as far back as I can remember, from the time I could write. I didn't start studying to become a writer until I was 21, but I wanted to be a writer, and I felt that's why it says at the beginning of the book, something had to happen. Loads of things had happened to increase. This increased character in the book is an older cousin who's had lots of life experience, and I felt, even though I'd had those experiences, I didn't feel that I had had worthy experiences compared to other people. So I wanted to make stuff happen. So in a way, I hold myself responsible for creating the situation that I found myself in, because I knew that I wanted some crazy stuff to go down. And then some crazy stuff went down. And while that crazy stuff was going down, I got stabbed numerous times. I got knocked out with a big stick across the back of the head in the underground stinking dungeon in a third world country. And I watched a couple of people die while I was there. But the whole time I knew, if I survive this is going to be my first book. What I didn't know was that it would take me 20 years of hard study just to get to the point whereby I have the skills and the confidence to actually write a book. So I made it happen in a way. Does that sound weird?
No, that sounds good. That's quite impressive, actually.
Yeah, just that I only got your book the other day, and I've started it, and I knew that it. Yes, and you didn't get into it when you said about Mr. Motivator and being compared to Gary Wilmot. So I'm about 100 or 200 pages into it. But going back to when I was a teenager, I used to have quite long hair and a bit of a hippie look about me. I used to get into loads of fights in that because there was also the mod time going on at the time.
That's right. Yeah.
But at that time, musically wise, I was just as much into, say, the Jam, the Stranglers, the punk scene, the new romantic scene, Japan and all that, as I was into, say, Hawkwind or Planet Gong. And so that was just an image, and purely it wasn't representative of me.
Yes.
So it's just going on from that and going on from your book and that and your experience. If you say, take the Equality Act.
Yes.
And if you consider all those 9 protected characteristics, whether it's race, gender, disability, so age, sexuality, do you think that we as a society have got better with appreciation to differences, more appreciative, or do you think it's still there latent and yet we hide it and don't show it as much? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, latent is a very good word, isn't it? Throughout the time I was writing the book, it then took me 8 years to write the book, and throughout all that time I was thinking, God, when this comes out, people are going to think that I'm talking about some archaic time. The young people are going to say, what's he on about? We don't recognise this racism stuff. This isn't our experience of the world. I thought maybe it's going to be outdated before it comes out. And then a number of things started happening with regards to the Islamic community. And I thought, well, maybe people will realise that this, you said latent, I tend to use the term like covert version of discrimination that now goes on. And I could not have predicted that the very year I was bringing this book out, that George Floyd and BLM were going to happen. I had no idea that all of a sudden race and racism was going to be at the forefront of everybody's mind. And I've been arguing with people for years, trying to tell them that we still live in a racist, white supremacist world. Now, with regards to the race thing, John, it's been this whole racial hierarchy has been 500 years in the making. So people say, why are we talking about the past? Why are black people always talking about slavery? That was ages ago. No, it wasn't ages ago. It's now. And we're just at the back end of that process. So how long it will take before we get any kind of equality at the end of a 500-year process? Who knows, John?
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just want to say, when you were talking before as well, I don't know if you know the film Quadrophenia about the mods and the rockers. That's one of my 3 favourite movies. I love The Who.
And Tommy.
Yeah,
oh man, just beautiful. I can't wait to show me son that and The Wall. Quadrophenia and The Wall. Let's go.